From the Grayman Briefing, this is a summary of recent developments regarding the Second Amendment, cybersecurity, protests, supply chain disruptions, national security, law and order, free speech, censorship, government oversight, and more. Now, for your situational awareness, Super Essie will be reading out the latest update. Get briefs sent in real time at graymanbriefing.com. That's Gray with an A. Let's get into it.
This week, we're looking at a recall that could take 85,000 patrol vehicles off U.S. streets until next year. Also, Facebook admits to colluding with the Biden administration to censor Americans. We're also monitoring an outbreak in the Northeast as local governments begin implementing nightly curfews to flatten the curve. In addition to that possible government overreach, we're also tracking how one state is now enforcing their tyrannical gun control laws on surrounding states. But first, let's begin with some legal updates and current events. In Arkansas, the state Supreme Court blocked a pro-choice abortion amendment from being included on the ballot for the upcoming election. The court upheld Arkansas Secretary of State's decision to reject the initiative due to the sponsor's failure to file the required training certification for paid canvassers, which led to the invalidation of the collected petition signatures. Over in Arizona, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in a 5-4 decision that Arizona can partially enforce a 2022 law requiring proof of U.S. citizenship for new voter registrations before this upcoming election. However, the state cannot require already registered voters to provide proof of citizenship to participate. First-time Arizona residents registering to vote will need to provide proof of U.S. citizenship. This could include things such as a birth certificate or a passport. Moving into law and order and the supply chain, Ford has recalled 85,000 Explorer Police Interceptor utility SUVs. These are the 2020 to 2022 year models. This is over risk of engine failure and potential fires, potentially affecting law enforcement agencies nationwide. There have already been multiple reports of underhood fires in these vehicles. A fix isn't expected until mid-2025, forcing departments to manage without these vehicles for several months, potentially impacting public safety and operational readiness. Law enforcement agencies have the ability to decide whether to risk using the recalled vehicles or take them off the road. Okay, now let's move into health and safety and government oversight. In Massachusetts, a case of Eastern equine encephalitis, this is EEE, has been reported. Health officials are advising residents to stay indoors from dusk to dawn, and one town, Oxford, has implemented a 6 p.m. curfew on outdoor activities. EEE can cause febrile illnesses and neurological diseases, and there have been 7 deaths related to EEE in the state since 2019. For comparison, according to the same data, there's been about 9,000 deaths in that same period of time from just the common flu. So 7 deaths compared to 9,000, yet for EEE, they are putting out curfews. Yeah, okay, we're going to stick with government oversight and move into border security here. The Department of Homeland Security announced on August 20th that it will grant protection from deportation to approximately 700,000 illegal immigrants who entered the U.S. The Biden administration released a Notice of Implementation of Keeping Families Together process, which will use the Immigration and Nationality Act to grant parole to illegal immigrants who have successfully avoided deportation for at least 10 years, so long as they marry a U.S. citizen. Moving into censorship, in a letter, Meta's Mark Zuckerberg responded to a U.S. House Judiciary Committee investigation into government efforts to censor social media. Zuckerberg stated that senior officials in the Biden administration pressured Meta to censor COVID-19 content, which he acknowledged was inappropriate and that he regretted it. He expressed this regret for not speaking out against it more at the current time when they were supposedly or obviously censoring Americans. Zuckerberg also discussed Meta's revised policy on temporarily demoting content pending fact-checker reviews and addressed his past efforts to aid the Democratic Party in 2020, which he claims was to support electoral infrastructure. He also said he would not be doing that this year. Moving on with censorship and a major incident here. The founder and CEO of Telegram, This is the messaging service or one of the messaging services that the Grayman Briefing uses to deliver their information. So the founder CEO Pavel Durov was arrested by the Air Transport Gendarmerie upon his arrival in France. Initial reports suggest the arrest is linked to an investigation into the app's lack of cooperation with law enforcement and its failure to provide backdoor access for governments. There are concerns that the privacy and security features of Telegram may be compromised if Durov hands over the source code, which officials are looking for right now, and will likely drop charges against Durov if he gives the source code. To that point, Telegram would be about as secure as any other mainstream messaging service. The New Hampshire, okay, we're going to move into Second Amendment, by the way. The New Hampshire Attorney General filed an amicus brief with the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court challenging the state's gun control and reciprocity laws. The brief argues that Massachusetts applies its law too strictly to non-residents and that New Hampshire residents should not be subject to, quote, overly burdensome regulations, end quote. This challenge follows the arrest of 2 New Hampshire residents in MA for felony firearm possession, despite the firearms being legally carried within New Hampshire. Okay, now we're going to shift into civil unrest, societal collapse, citizen actions, and extremism. And we'll kind of just quickly skim over these events. There's a lot of them, mostly pro-Palestinian stuff. If you're interested in seeing videos of these actual riots and protests, or other sources and more details, make sure you go to Grayman Briefing, and you can definitely dig into this. So in Dearborn, Michigan, over 2,000 pro-Palestinians, Islamic extremists, and Muslims marched in the annual Ashura Project event. The protest included banners, Hamas attire, a helicopter escort, and pro-Muslim signage. In Chicago, Illinois, pro-Palestinians and other activist groups protested, rioted, assaulted police, attacked counter-protesters, and disrupted the DNC. There's more also to this coverage on these mass protests outside, and in at least one case, inside the DNC, if you head over to graymanbriefing.com. In La Grande Motte, France, pro-Palestinian extremists detonated explosives in 2 vehicles outside a Jewish synagogue. It was labeled as an act of terrorism and an assassination attempt. In Philadelphia, on September 10th, pro-Palestinians plan to disrupt and shut down the presidential debate. Organizers have encouraged supporters to take autonomous action prior to converging with larger groups as the debate time nears. Okay, we're going to look into terrorism and global conflict. In Germany, early reports indicate that ISIS has claimed responsibility for a mass stabbing at the Festival of Diversity. The attack reportedly left 3 dead and 7 injured, at this point, there's been 3 arrests made now, including one at a refugee camp in the country. The attack was described as, quote, revenge for Muslims in Palestine and everywhere, end quote, targeted at a gathering of Christians as well as those at that festival. So we did this one pretty quick, guys. I didn't want to include everything this time. I want to kind of just give you a brief overview of the main things from the past week's briefings. Remember that these briefings are delivered in real time to Grayman Briefing subscribers sent via the Telegram. Hopefully, it'll keep being sent via the Telegram, pending that major news out of France, and also on the Signal apps and via email. Due to time constraints and the risk of censorship, we can't cover it all here. Please interact with us on this broadcast, help us increase engagement and views. Thanks for listening, and as always, remain aware, be vigilant, and stay safe.
Get unredacted, real-time briefings sent via email and through the Telegram and Signal apps by joining the Grayman Briefing.